Welcome, everyone. Wellness beyond willpower is our topic today. And I love it because sometimes when we think about putting something into action, and this is episode 5 of our self care consistency series. So, where we're talking about really creating a habit, breaking bad habits, etc., knowing that self care consistency is something that at the beautiful age of 50 plus, we're maybe more conscious of, but still not so good at. And given the first crisis or whatsoever, we always end up last of the pile. But I love this idea of wellness beyond willpower because just the word willpower makes me think about struggle and hardship, and we have to really battle on through, which isn't helpful when we're talking about installing good habits that we need in order to age and thrive with vibrancy, with good health. So I am delighted that we have consistency from somebody else as well, which is our wonderful Cara Michele, who's hosting this 6-part series on self-care consistency. As I said today, episode 5. Cara Michele, as you know by now, is a licensed acupuncturist, a functional nutrition counselor, certified personal trainer, and the author of a book called Fuel Your Engines. So thank you to you, Cara Michele, as well, for showing up here with consistency, inspiring, motivating, and guiding us to truly make self-care an integral part of our lives for our sake, but also so that we can truly show up for other people as well. So as usual, before we get into building environments that support success around wellness, if you could just introduce yourself for people who haven't yet listened to our last 4 episodes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me again, Julie. I'm super excited to be here and speak to your audience because I've been working in women's health for the last 20 years. And what I know for sure is that, number one, women's lives are just crazy busy. We have a lot of folks, people that we love, family, friends, a lot of projects, work projects, social commitments that we're really committed to, and our calendars can get really full. And the other thing that I know for sure is that it's really easy to put our own care at the end of the line. And so what that means is that we're pushing forward all the love, all of the giving, all of the projects that are super important, and the people that are important. We're making sure that they have whatever it is they need, but we end up doing that from an empty battery.
Yeah.
And so that means for us that we're actually going to be depleting ourselves. We're setting up our lives so that we are actually dragging a bit. We're pushing ourselves to kind of get these things done, but it's not coming from a place of abundance. It's not,
Yeah.
it often is the opposite. It actually comes from a place of depletion. And
Yeah.
sometimes that can actually morph into resentment and upset and not feeling like we're having our own fulfilling life along with taking care of all these people and the projects that we really care about. So I'm just super passionate about making sure that women understand that not only is it possible for them to feel good, to feel strong while they're taking care of the people and the projects that they care about, but it's actually their right. They deserve to feel mentally and physically strong while you're doing all this. It's good for the people that we care about if we're really excited about our lives while we're trying to make sure they're excited about
Exactly.
their lives.
Exactly. And I love what you've been sharing over the last 4 episodes as well about, I tend to think we all have different circumstances, right? But I remember before when I would imagine an average woman's life, let's say with children. So then you go through all that crazy phase where, your career's on hold or not started at all, or there is just none. You're looking after the children. They have urgent needs which have to be looked after. And the partner, or if you're an expat partner like me, you've moved around each time having to recreate everything for everybody else from day one. And I always used to think, well, the retirement or pre-retirement stage, that'll be a walk in the park. But it's not. Our children, if children there have been, maybe they don't have blown nose and sort of sore leg issues, but they have much bigger issues, which
Mhm.
tend to be a lot more brain consuming and heart hurting, let's say, then indeed, aging parents, which often need to be looked after. And there's also the reality that I think, like most of us know, even the most vibrant of us who hydrate perfectly, etc., our energy levels do go down. We think that we've built this whole setup around us of, I do this and I do that and I help her and I'm here for him and I'm here for that. And then you also mentioned the word resentment. And I never thought that I would get to that phase, but there is a moment when you think, well, I'm tired. When do I have a break? When does anybody say, let's look after Julie today? So I thank you. I really do thank you for having these topics and coming at it from different angles with very valuable tips that we can implement straight away. So we've mentioned what you do and why you do it. It's very clear you're very passionate about what you do and you walk the talk. You're full of life and vibrancy yourself. So the topic that we've chosen for today is the beyond willpower. So can I ask you maybe to start, why did you choose this topic? Why those words?
Yeah. Julie, I see women that come into my office all the time. And one of the number one things, so we start to talk about what is the issue for today. Maybe they're having back pain. Maybe they're not sleeping well. Maybe they're having a lot of hot flashes. And so we will start to think, okay, well, what's going on with your self-care, right? What's happening with your food? What's your exercise looking like? Because every woman I meet, they already know that self-care practices, they know exactly what it is they need and they know that they need them, right? So yeah. This is not a secret. It's not new information when we start to talk about the effects of exercise on being able to get good sleep and then how that sleep affects their hot flashes. This is a connection that most women, everyone I deal with, they're all go-getters. They're reading the information, they're listening to podcasts, they have the knowledge. But one of the things that they always say is that I just need to be better. I need more willpower, Cara Michele.
Right.
And it's a very interesting thing. I'm not suggesting that willpower doesn't play a role. But the thing that we miss is that you have to have energy. Willpower is an energy.
Yes, exactly. So if you're already low on energy to start with.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's when it becomes a chore, right? Because I mean, even the examples that you've just said, like nutrition and exercise, I can already see people thinking like, oh, but those are chores, For me, self-care means eating all the chocolates and the whatever that I want because, I'm not 20 anymore. It doesn't matter if I don't fit in my bikini, but then it does and they're not healthy. Oh, exercise, oh gosh, I've got to walk, I've got to move, Whereas that is self-care. It's not self-punishment, right?
Absolutely. Look, there's a reality to this phase of life. You mentioned earlier that a lot of women have children that are a little bit older and they might need different types of support. So it's not just putting on a Band-Aid and kissing a boo-boo now, but maybe their relationship concerns or trying to get their career going or buying their first home. They need different things from us at this stage of life. And then also a lot of women are dealing with or have family members who are older and need more support, right? And so both of those groups of people, you can't just take over their situations. I think it takes more energy to be supportive of these two groups of people in our lives, right? When a child is young, you can just kind of direct them this way or direct them that way.
And it's over in a second, right? Big hug, big kiss, here's a sweetie, bye.
That's right, that's right. But when you're dealing with adult people, you need to be more diplomatic. You need to be more thoughtful in how you're offering information and what information you're offering. They're running their lives and looking for added support, some additional information, but there's just no way that, take my parents, for example, there's no way that they want me to come in and take over their lives.
Right.
And so it requires even more from us to be patient and thoughtful and a good listener, all of those kind of things. So I make mention of that because those two groups of folks are in a lot of women's lives, but you have a career that you're trying to move forward, or maybe you're changing careers. Your body has changed, right? A lot of folks are going through perimenopause or menopause, right? So now you don't even know self-care practices that have worked in the past. None of that's working now, right?
Yeah.
And you're trying to figure out yourself.
Yeah, you don't recognize yourself anymore.
You just feel like your body's Going the opposite direction of the direction that you're trying to go? Is it going against you? A lot of women are really frustrated about this. What I'm trying to say is that life is full. There's a lot going on. There's a lot required of us in this phase of life. Midlife is a term that I think would fit a lot of folks. So we were just speaking about how much energy folks have, and if we're really going to lean in on willpower, where are we getting that from?
Right.
Right?
So
And
true.
yeah, exactly. Maybe we have it at first thing in the morning, the first, third of the day. But by the time we get to 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, much less 7 in the evening, relying on willpower is really, it causes a lot of frustrations and a lot of self-negative conversation within
I was
oneself.
going to say, it's even almost worse, isn't it? It's almost that you feel like, well, there we are. That didn't work, did it? So now you're going to do the absolute opposite and go and punish yourself because you feel you haven't done enough or well
That's right.
enough. So
Absolutely,
how do we
absolutely.
get out of that then?
Well, I'm just a big proponent of creating systems that work with the life that you currently have. And I
Right.
think that's really important to just be honest with ourselves that, most women have those situations, right? They might have adult children, they may have parents that are older, they may have a career, they might have a spouse. A lot of the pieces that are moving in our lives are similar, but everybody's life's just a little bit
Yeah,
different. So there
definitely.
is no one, you can't just take it off the shelf and then plug it into your life. You have to be willing to kind of look and see, well, what are my special circumstances? Maybe you have to get out of the door a little bit earlier in the morning than the typical 9 to 5 job, right? Maybe when you get home in the afternoon that there's some structures in place that say you got to spend the first hour after work with your parents, and so you're not going to be home right away to make sure that dinner's on the table and those kind of things, right? So it's really important to, number one, create structures that actually work for you, self-care structures, but we also need to kind of be willing to investigate, be a little curious. How do we
Yeah.
create that and dial it in a way that really fits our specific circumstances for the goals that we have for ourselves? Julie, I think this is a really, really important piece. Not everyone is trying to do the exact same thing. Not everyone is moving towards the same kind of life, right?
Right.
I've met women who aren't interested in traveling. They don't like to hike. They're not interested in sports, right? They want to be able to
Yeah.
garden a little bit a few times a week, and that's really their activity. So if that's the case, then their exercise and the energy needs that they have are going to be in this category.
Right.
But I meet
Right.
a lot of other women who are very interested in traveling. They want to be able to get in and out of the canoe. They want to be
Yeah.
able to put their luggage on the top rack themselves. They want to be independent when they're climbing the mountain or doing the
Yeah.
thing, whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Then their energy levels and their exercise and all of their self-care needs to look more like this. So
Right.
having some kind of vision for what it is that we want our life to look like now and 20 years from now is super important because that's going to tell us how much energy we're trying to cultivate. What do I need to do
Right.
today to have the level of energy that I'm looking for tomorrow?
Yeah, I would also say that those who haven't listened so far, I would also start with going back to the seven pillars, the seven necessary things. Because, okay, we all have very different lives and different energy levels and different things which bring us joy and happiness. But still, within all of that, there are seven pillars which need to be worked on in order to have the self-care routines or the health that anybody needs in order to feel happy in their body. And then within those seven, there's 50 shades of gray of, okay, what are you doing now? And what is it that you want to be able to be doing? People who have always been sporty, they probably want to continue that. It doesn't have to become more and faster, but at least to be able to maintain that movement, that travel, that you've been talking about. So it's for all of us, I guess, in our own little shade of how do we become that bit better a version of ourselves and how do we keep it in such a way, exactly what you've been saying, in a way which we're not just going to throw out, because I think we're all great at going on these sudden rampages of I'm going to be a better person, or I'm going to lose weight, or I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week, etc. But we set such high goals that
Yeah.
it's really hard to get any satisfaction at all. So immediately we hit ourselves over the head with, you see, you fail. And so these structures that you're talking about, we first need to really define where we are now and where we want to stay or be tomorrow, in a month, in 10 years. Is that how it
Absolutely.
works?
Absolutely. It's kind of start off taking a quick survey of how you're feeling about your life. Are you excited about how life is going right now? Are you excited about how you're showing up in life? Right? Do you have the energy that you really want to have at 7 in the evening or first thing in the morning? If not, then we want to start to look at those 7 foundations. Would it be useful to run through those real quick?
Yeah, and you actually have a quiz, don't you, to help people? You
You.
mention it at the end in the show notes, but I
Yep.
think this is the right moment to say if you have any doubt about it, or it's always hard to do by yourself, these sort of stuff. Down the show
Yeah.
notes, you'll find a quiz.
It's called the
For,
Self-Care Consistency Quiz, and it takes maybe 3 to 5 minutes to fill out. Super quick, super easy. But the usefulness there is that you actually get to understand where you are on the spectrum of self-care, right? And those questions are really nice because they allow you to kind of reflect. Women tell me all the time that, I hadn't thought about this, or I didn't know that I wasn't taking care of that part, or that, a couple changes would make such a big
it's a
difference
big
for me.
difference.
And what I do at the end of that, when I get information, when women fill that out, I'm happy to hop on a quick call and we can kind of go through the scores that women have and we can see if there's a couple of quick changes that we can make. But that quiz is going to run through those 7 foundations. So everyone knows they need to eat nutritious food, they need to hydrate, they need to exercise and stretch, they need good sleep, and they need good stress management skills. But then on top of that, we need to make sure we have good digestive system and that we're keeping our blood sugar balanced. So we
Thank you.
want to look whenever, if you just sit down for 5 seconds, probably might take about 5 or 6 minutes, 10 minutes. We'll call it 10 minutes.
I think we can owe that to ourselves, right? I mean, we're
Point to
talking
ourselves.
about having a vibrant life, feeling good.
You know what, Julie? I'm so glad you said that. Right then in that moment, I was trying to make it so that it seemed a lot easier for women to actually get their hands on. But the truth of the matter is, if we can find 10 minutes to sit down and just kind of take a quick survey of ourselves, right? We owe that to ourselves for
I
sure.
agree. I agree. And you've made it really simple. You've got the questions there and it's
Yeah.
free. I mean, really, it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer, yeah. But we want to kind of see, well, where am I on the spectrum, right? And if there's some places that you feel are a little lower, when you get your answers back a little lower than you want them to be, then you might go back and revisit your relationship with one of the 7 foundations, right? If I'm feeling more sluggish in the morning than I want to, I want to look and see, what is my nutrition like? Right? And what time am I eating? Am I eating so late that I can't sleep very well and that's causing me to be a little more sluggish in the morning? Or is it that I'm dehydrated? Or is it that I stayed up until 1 or 2 o'clock and then got up at 6? So we want to just go through that and kind of be honest with ourselves about what's going on. This idea of using willpower, I just need to have more willpower.
Push on through.
What that means to me is that I'm going to push myself to do it anyway. I'm going to push myself to do the thing I don't really necessarily want to do, that I might be too tired to do, that I don't have focus on doing it, but I'm just going to do it anyway. Look, that's a great idea, but I'm telling you, when your plate is full, it's not going to last very long.
Not something which
Knows.
excites us, right? It makes us already feel like there's going to be more struggle and we're already tired and we're already hard pressed for time. We already feel depleted. So I guess it's the idea of just at least promising to ourselves that every day we will take, even if it's one little step. So having a structure, a structure where we can feel good at the end of the day, not as such an unrealistic structure which doesn't fit in with our lifestyle at all, that we know we're not going to make it. We know we're doomed from the start. So we're going to need so much willpower to do something we've already decided isn't going to work. How's that going to serve anyone? I mean, at our age, we should be, wiser than that. We've tried that version. It just does not work ever.
Yeah, it really doesn't. And it's just really useful to just accept that, as you were saying, like trying to push myself and make myself, what often happens is that sometimes women will rebound on the other side and they just say, well, I'm just going to give up, right? I'm not going to try to take care of myself anymore. I've done all the things and nothing's working. I'm just going to eat what I want. I'm never going to move. I'm not going to make myself do anything, right? And I think that there's a middle ground here, is what I hear what you were saying. And, in terms of we just need to commit to ourselves. I run the Strength and Vitality Accelerator program, and this is a platform, a structure that allows women to slowly start to take the time to look at what's going on for themselves. And what we really ask women to dedicate to themselves is 30 minutes a day.
Right. Yeah.
30 minutes a day, right? If
I mean,
you're
there's 24
really
hours in a
wanting,
day, right? There's so many hours in a day.
right. Yeah. To me, that feels really reasonable. And the members, they seem to find that something that is truly manageable for them. It doesn't interfere with everything else that's going on in their schedule. And it actually starts to say to them, they say to themselves, by this repeated behavior, that I'm worth it.
Right.
I'm
Right.
worth that 30 minutes a day, that it's okay for me to have sacred time that's just for myself.
And even more for the people who are still not sure in this for myself thing, you're investing in yourself because that 30 minutes will give you so much more fuel in order to do all these other things you've told yourself you should do or must do or have to do.
Absolutely.
Then you're actually really filling the tank so you start your day or continue your day with the energy that you need instead of these huge, oh, right, I'm going to do it. And then each time that's exhausting.
Yeah, absolutely. Within those 30 minutes, you can get a lot done,
Yeah.
right? And every day doesn't look exactly the same. So on some of those days, maybe you're doing a 15 or 20-minute stretch or exercise routine. And then maybe the other few minutes that you're actually doing some reflection. Maybe you're doing a little bit of journaling or some deep breathing or connecting with a friend, right?
Yeah.
Maybe another day you're actually going to, give yourself an opportunity to think a little deeper about what you want your meals to look like.
Right. Right.
Right?
So there's not that panic moment at the last minute. You're exhausted. Something came up and you ended up having to go and save Auntie Louise or whatever. And then you come home, you're just too tired to even imagine eating. You just open the cupboard, grab the first thing which is there and put
Yep.
it in your mouth, leaving you
That's
even
right.
more depleted afterwards.
That's right. That's right. So you can do a lot in 30 minutes when you sit with a cookbook and maybe you're flipping through, find a handful of recipes, maybe you make your quick list. A lot of things can happen in that 30 minutes. And when you're doing that over and over again, 7 days a week, 30 minutes just for me, not an hour, not 4 hours, just 30 minutes, those actions start to stack on top of each other. And the next
Right.
thing you know, you've got some momentum where that's now generating more mental and physical energy because you're eating a little bit better, because you're stretching a little bit more,
Right.
because you're getting to bed a little bit earlier, right? I was just talking to a client the other day about the benefit of taking some time on the weekend to kind of get clear. What's my wardrobe going to be like for the week? I know I
Yeah.
have a couple of meetings. I know I'm working from home 1 or 2 days, and kind of setting a little section of your closet. You have the clothes are ironed and put right there. You know where your shoes are. You know what your accessories are
Yeah.
going to be. They're set right there on the dresser. So that now each day you just get up and put it on. You're not spending all, another 30 or
Stress and oh
50.
my gosh, this doesn't fit anymore. And oh, I forgot to iron my blouse and now I'm late. Yes, those do not make us feel
Exactly,
particularly good.
exactly. So one of the things I hear a lot is that I just don't have time, but I do think that there are a few strategies that we can put into place that actually open up a little bit more
Yes, they
time.
do.
And again, I'm not suggesting that it's just proven we do not need an hour or two every day. What we need is 30 minutes. If we can just commit to 30 minutes that are
Yeah.
just time that I'm going to spend thinking, what do I need? What's
Right.
going to help me?
Yes.
And then we can move on.
Okay, so we're talking about environments, we're talking about systems and structures, right? How does one then start deciding what structure or system suits us best?
Yeah, great question. So again, if they want to take that quiz, I'm happy to have a quick conversation. But even if you take the quiz and you just look at it yourself, it's broken down into these clear structures. This might be the next
Okay.
step, right? But if you're doing this on your own, you already know what
Mm.
it is you need to do for yourself. I know that for sure. Every woman has read the books, they've listened to the information, they know what it is. So what I would do, Julie, is I would pick one of those 7 foundations. Let's just say that you feel like here in Maryland, it's sunny now, and we're into summer, then the weather's a little nicer. Maybe you want to get out and walk more. Maybe you want to exercise more, right? So what I would do is just choose that one and come up with a plan that you can do repeatedly.
Right.
We don't want to pick a plan that's going to make you sore, that's too much, it's too big of a leap from where you currently are to where it is you think you want to go. So, for example, if you haven't been exercising all winter long, you probably don't want to start off with a 6 minute run, right?
Yeah.
So, how about we just decide to go for a half an hour walk first?
Right.
And let's do that 3 or 4 times a week. And then you might bump it up to 40 minutes and do that
Yeah.
3 or 4 times a week. And
Yeah.
that way, over time, you allow your body to get accustomed to the movement. You allow your brain to understand that this is who you are. You start to build an identity
Right.
as someone who exercises and walks regularly.
Yeah.
And then when you do that, and your body and your mind starts to get accustomed to these kinds of behaviors, you don't need willpower to keep going.
No, because you enjoy it, you felt the benefit, you felt how good it is. And I guess the
Absolutely.
more you do it, the more you're not worrying about having to, etc., which means you can always fit it in. You know, if you'd planned a 1 hour beautiful walk and suddenly the weather's terrible or somebody rings you, you can still say, well, I'm going to do 15. 15 is what I need now. I'm going to just let go of everything as I do my 15, and then I'm ready for the others. And it's very rare that there's something so urgent that we can't allow ourselves just that 15 minutes, right?
Absolutely. And after a while, your body starts to tell you. You don't
Yes.
even have to think about it. Your
Yeah.
body says,
Yeah.
oh, this is what we're
Yeah.
doing next. And,
Yeah.
and if you
Yeah.
miss a couple days for whatever reason,
Yeah.
of course, that's okay because we don't need to be perfect. I think we've
Yeah.
talked about that in a previous episode. But you know, your body starts to feel a little funny. And
Yeah.
if you think it
Yeah.
through, it's kind of like, oh, I missed my exercise. So
Yeah.
let me get back to it, right? And so
Oh,
now
so,
it's the
so true.
opposite.
I think of that last week I was in Paris, and usually I always do all this yoga, and this was a gorgeous little hotel under the roofs, but the room wasn't huge, as in there wasn't a huge space for me to go kicking my arms and legs all over the place. And I thought, okay, right, I'm feeling sluggish because I am very much used to this, and it is an addiction, you know, but what can I do already in the morning, knowing that we were walking around Paris all day? But you know, there was some Qigong movements and
Hmm.
lymphatic draining where you tap over yourself and you just wave your arms. That was perfectly doable. I felt fantastic after 10 minutes. It
Yeah.
set me up for the whole day. There's always something we can do. Ab exercise is sitting on the side of the bed, you know, with your legs instead of lying on the floor. And it just makes us feel good. And then we feel that consistency that you're all about because it gives us the energy and that healthy vibration in order to cope with whatever comes our way because we are carers, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So I mean that's perfect. I love what you just said. You know, like it doesn't have to be exactly. And so we sometimes have this mentality of it's got to be perfect or I'm not going to do it. Right? So it's okay to flex if you're in a small hotel room and you want to do a few of those types of qigong movements or the lymphatic drainage, or you want to do a few body weight exercises when you normally at home you might be on a bike or whatever it might
Yeah,
be. Let that be okay.
yeah.
And then you keep moving because at some point you're coming back home and you can get back to the regular
Yes,
routine.
exactly, exactly. Cara, Michelle, thank you very much. Anything you want to add?
This is always a really useful and important, exciting conversation for me to have. And if there's any women out there who are really interested in diving in, taking that quiz is a really wonderful thing. And again, I'm happy to hop on a call and chat with you about your scores and see how we can get things going. But I want to just leave you with this idea that it's okay to feel like you want it's okay to want a more energetic self, right? It's
Right.
okay to want your body to be able to carry you through your lives
Yes,
and to have a
yes.
body that's energetic and to have a mind that is carrying all the details and handling all the things, you know, without a lot of struggle or sluggishness and all of that. There's nothing selfish about
No.
wanting to
Yeah,
feel really good yourself because then it actually makes it 10 times easier to give to the
yeah,
people that you really care about and take care of the projects that are really important to you. So I want to give every woman out there permission to
right.
take care of themselves, knowing that that's the foundation for all the other great work that they want to do in the world.
And that ties in so beautifully with what we've also been saying is that none of us know how long we're going to live. And we may well have another 40 years. My grandmother's 98. I want to be able to enjoy those next 40 years rather
Yeah.
than be bedriddled because of things that I could have avoided just by taking care of myself better. Thank you, Cara Michelle. Wise
Yeah.
words to all of you. Certainly invite you to go and do that quiz and see you next time for our last episode in the self care consistency. All the very best to all of you.